कः कालः कानि मित्राणि को देशः कौ व्ययागमौ कश्चाहं का च मे शक्तिरिति चिन्त्यं मुहुर्मुहुः.
Today we sit with one of the most practical verses ever composed in Sanskrit, a verse that is less a poem and more a mirror. It comes from the Chanakya Niti, chapter 4, and it goes like this: Kaha kalaha kani mitrani ko deshaha ko vyayagamau kaschaham ka chame shaktihi iti chintyam muhur muhuhu. Listen to what it asks. What is the time? Who are my friends? What is the place? What is going out and what is coming in? Who am I? And what is my real power? These things, says Chanakya, must be contemplated again and again. Let us first take the words apart, because in Sanskrit, the words themselves carry secrets. Kaha kalaha. What is the time? The word kala, time, is traditionally traced to the root kal, which means to drive and to count. So time in this tradition is not a passive background. Time is a driver. It pushes events forward. And time is a counter. It keeps score. When Chanakya asks, what is the time? He is asking, what is this moment driving toward? And what is it counting against me? Kani mitrani. Who are my friends, my true allies? Ko deshaha. What is my place, my ground, my terrain? Then comes a beautiful piece of grammar. Kau vyayagamau. Vyaya comes from the root e with the prefix v, literally the going away. Everything that leaks out of your life, money, hours, energy, attention. Agama comes from the root gam with the prefix a, the coming in. And here is the secret. Chanakya puts these two words in the dual number, binding them together as an inseparable pair. You are never permitted to look at your income without your expenses, or your expenses without your income. Only the pair is real. Only the ratio tells the truth. Then, quietly, in the middle of what sounds like an accountant's checklist, comes the deepest question a human being can ask. Kash chaham, and who am I? And finally, ka chame shaktihi, what is my power? Shakti comes from the root shak, meaning to be able. Shakti is not brute force. It is your actual present capability. What is genuinely possible for you right now? And then the command, iti chintyam, thus it must be pondered. Notice, not may be pondered, not could be pondered. The Sanskrit form here carries obligation. This is a duty. And the last words, muhur muhuhu, again and again. Sanskrit repeats a word to build repetition into the grammar itself. The doubling is the teaching. Self-examination is not an event. It is a frequency. Now, who wrote this? Chanakya, also called Kautilya, also called Vishnugupta, the master strategist of 4th century BCE India, the man who brought down the mighty Nanda Empire and placed Chandragupta Maurya on the throne, founding India's first great empire. This verse has no story around it, no battlefield dialogue. It is distilled experience. Chanakya had watched an empire of immense wealth and immense armies collapse because its king was running on stale information about his own situation. He no longer knew what time it was, who his friends really were, or what his true strength was. This verse exists so that you never make that mistake. Now look at the architecture of the 6 questions, because the order itself is wisdom. It moves from the outside inward. First, time, the vast forces you cannot control, only read. Then, friends, the people you can influence but never command. Then, place, the ground you stand on. Then, resources, what flows in and out of your hands. Then, identity, the one who is asking. And finally, power, what that self can actually do. You cannot honestly answer the last question until you have answered the first 5, because power is never absolute. It is relational. Your strength in the wrong place at the wrong time with the wrong allies is 0. And notice something remarkable. The question, who am I? Kash Chaham, is the supreme question of the Upanishads, the heart of all spiritual inquiry. Chanakya slips it into a strategic audit, 5th on the list, right after the budget. This is deliberate. He is telling us there is no wall between spiritual self-knowledge and practical self-knowledge. A person deluded about who they are will be deluded about their money, their friendships, their timing. The ledger is a mirror. This wisdom echoes across the world. In China, in almost the same century, Sun Tzu wrote, "Know the enemy and know yourself, and in 100 battles you will never be in peril." In Greece, the temple at Delphi carried the inscription, "Know thyself." The Stoic philosophers of Rome practiced a nightly self-examination. Seneca asked himself every evening, "What fault did I cure today?" And in our own time, modern strategy rediscovered Chanakya without knowing it. The business world's SWOT analysis, strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, threats, is this verse in a suit and tie. And the military thinker John Boyd taught that victory goes not to the stronger side, but to the side that reobserves and reorients faster. That is exactly muhur muhuhu, again and again. The value of the audit lies in its refresh rate, because every answer decays, time shifts, friends change, money moves. You yourself are not who you were a year ago. So how do we live this verse starting today? Here is a simple practice. Take 1 page, write 6 headings. Under kaala, ask, what season am I in? In my life, my work, my health. What is this moment right for? Under mitra, ask, who are my 5 real allies? And who would actually stand by me under pressure? Under desha, ask, is the place I live and work in helping me or quietly defeating me? Under vyaya and agama, write 2 honest numbers. What came in this month and what went out? And count your time and energy, not only your money. Under aham, write 1 sentence. Who am I right now? Without titles, without roles. And under shakti, ask, what can I actually accomplish in the next 90 days? Based on evidence, not on wishful thinking. Then honor the final instruction, muhur muhuhu. Put it in your calendar. The same 6 questions every week, 15 minutes. The power is not in any single audit. The power is in watching your answers change, because a life that is examined again and again can never drift far off course. What is the time? Who are my friends? Where do I stand? What flows in? What flows out? Who am I? What is my power? Ask again and again. That is the whole teaching.
कः कालः कानि मित्राणि को देशः कौ व्ययागमौ कश्चाहं का च मे शक्तिरिति चिन्त्यं मुहुर्मुहुः